When an average person stands
Let's
next to
go.
a basketball player, they often feel like a dwarf. The average NBA player is 6 feet 7 inches tall. But when those 6'7" guys stand next to these guys on this list, they also feel belittled. Here are the top 10 tallest players in NBA history.
Bro.
Boban Marjanovic, 7 feet 4 inches. Boban Marjanovic is one of the most
What?
popular role players in the NBA today. Even though he looks like a bouncer in front of a Russian mob club, Boban became a fan favorite because he's the biggest kid on the court. You can often see Boban smiling and cracking jokes on the bench, or fetching balls when nobody else can do it. Unfortunately, he spends most of his time on the bench, as he's averaging less than 10 minutes per game in action. And it's not because Boban can't play. When he was coming to the NBA, he was regarded as one of the best centers in Europe, with multiple regional MVPs and all EuroLeague first-team selection. Because of different rules in European basketball, Boban was able to stay parked in the paint and dominate the game from the inside. In the NBA's pace and space era,
That was Davis, innit? Davis couldn't get the ball off him. 7'4". I'm 5'10", 5'11". On a good day, 6'5". It depends who's asking. But yeah, 7'4". These guys are tall. Like, we see them on TV and they become normal. They look normal, but then you see them in real life, you're like, 7'4". And this is number 10. Who's gonna be number 1 then? Bro.
he's constantly forced to run after smaller players, which doesn't play into his strengths. If he played 20 or 30 years ago, he would probably be one of the best centers in the league. Today, he's not playing much, but which other centers can claim that they kicked Keanu Reeves' ass in John Wick 3?
Oh.
Sim Bhullar, 7 feet 5 inches. Sim Bhullar is a Canadian professional basketball player and the first player of Indian descent that played in the NBA. And as you might have guessed, Sim Bhullar is really tall, standing at 7'5", and with a listed weight of 360 pounds.
I feel like the thing about basketball players is that they can't hide. In public, they stand out. Like, if you're a football player, I feel like if you have a hat on, if you're on with face mask, no one can see you. But if you're a basketball player, how do you hide your height? What do you do? Like, walk around bending like this? I'd be so tough for that. I feel like people like Steph Curry. Steph Curry is like 6'4", 6'3". He'd be alright. But people, this guy, 7'4", 7'5". You're not hiding. You can't hide.
After 2 years at Mexico State, he declared for the 2014 NBA draft, where he went undrafted. But because the owner of the Sacramento Kings, Vivek Ranadive, is also Indian, the Kings picked him to play in their summer league team, mostly for marketing reasons. However, Sim eventually made the roster on a 10-day contract. He played in 3 total NBA games and 3 total minutes. Pavel Podkolzin.
I feel like just playing, even if you play for 10 seconds, you play in the NBA. People don't realize how hard it is to get into the NBA. Like, I'm not saying I know a lot about NBA, American basketball, but do you know how tough it is just to make it? That's ridiculous. Fair play to you, just making it to the summer league. Fair play. That's ridiculous.
Podkolzin, 7 feet 5 inches. Similarly to Sim Bhullar, Pavel Podkolzin was another guy that didn't play much in the NBA. But because of his short stint with the Mavericks and his height of 7'5", he's a member of our list. Pavel started his career in the Russian 2nd Division and also played in Italy before declaring for the NBA draft in 2004. He actually got drafted pretty high, with the 21st pick by the Utah Jazz, who traded him to the Mavs on draft night. He ended up playing 6 games for Dallas, for a total of 28 minutes and 4 points. He's still a professional player and plays in Russia. Chuck Nevin, 7 feet 5 inches. Unlike his 2 7'5" NBA counterparts, Chuck Nevin had a significantly longer NBA career. However, his minutes average looks similar to those of Bhullar and Podkolzin, even though Nevin stayed on the NBA rosters.
Alright, correct me if I'm wrong in this, but I feel like years ago, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, basketball wasn't that athletic. It wasn't like an athletic play. It was more like if you're big, you get away with loads of stuff. Now, you have smaller players that are quick. It's more about dribbles and all that. I could be wrong, but let me know. I think that's why years ago, if you're tall, you make it easily. But now, it doesn't matter how tall you are. You gotta be skillful as well. So yeah, let me know. But I'm probably wrong, but yeah, let me know.
For 9 seasons. He played in only 155 games, with the average time of 5 minutes on the court. Despite the lack of playing time, he was a very popular player in his playing days, as many people wanted to stand in his presence and feel really small, which is a virtue of all players on this list. Nevin won the title with the Lakers in 1985, despite not playing a single minute of the postseason. Regardless of that, he's the tallest player ever with a championship ring, which is a quiz-worthy fact to remember. Shawn Bradley, 7 feet 6 inches. Standing at 7'6", Bradley was the 3rd tallest player to ever run on the NBA hardwood and instantly became a household name. It's hard not to notice a 7'6" guy, but Bradley was also a decent player. A premier shot blocker, he once blocked 14 shots in an NCAA game, which is a record that stands to this day. Bradley was also attempting to swat anything near the rim, but unfortunately for him, this also turned him into a poster boy for being posterized. Due to his size and somewhat nerdy looks, he was a target for most athletic wings who wanted to get a 7'6" guy on a poster. Bradley was drafted in Philadelphia, but left the biggest mark in Dallas, where he played for 9 seasons. He was averaging 8.1 points, 6.3 rebounds, and 2.5 blocks for his career, and remained a known figure among basketball fans worldwide. You may also remember him from Space Jam, where he starred alongside Michael Jordan and was one of the players whose talents were stolen by the Monstars. Yao Ming, 7 feet 6 inches.
I remember Yao Ming growing up. I remember Yao Ming was famous. He was big across. Oh my god, it was cause like in Ireland, basketball isn't that big. No one really plays basketball in Ireland. But I remember this geezer. Houston Rockets. Cause like, there was a lot, especially when I went to university, when I went to college in Athlone in Ireland. There was a lot of Asian students, and they all used to have Yao Ming tops. Literally, not all of them, but like most of them were just wearing Yao Ming top. So I feel like that's one thing. I feel like all this NBA teams, that's what they do when they find a player that's from a certain area. So let's say you're from India, for instance. Now they want to have you on the team. If you're good enough, they want to have you on the team because they know you're gonna bring a lot of supporters to the team. A lot of teams tend to do that. I could be wrong. Let me know.
Yao is the best player on this list, the biggest Asian basketball star of all time, and one of the biggest ambassadors of the sport, literally. Yao Ming's parents were one of the tallest people in China, both former basketball players. Under the socialist regime of Mao Zedong, they were almost forced to marry and produce offspring. His mom was 6 feet 3 inches tall, and his father was 6'7". Yao was a government project in the making since before he was born, and he was expected to be tall. However, nobody really thought Yao was going to be 7'6". Young Yao was pushed to play basketball, and even though he wasn't any good at first and didn't like basketball, countless hours of training and his freakish height enabled him to dominate the Chinese league. He was selected number 1 overall in the 2002 NBA draft by the Houston Rockets and instantly became a global phenomenon. Because of his height and over 1 billion Chinese fans, Yao was immediately one of the most popular players in the game, with a horde of reporters following his every giant footstep. But it wasn't all just height and hype, which some people soon realized. Yao could really ball and was extremely skillful for a player of his dimensions, with an array of post moves and a silky smooth jump shot. He became one of the best centers in the league, if not the best, when he was healthy. Unfortunately, he was rarely healthy, and his feet and knees couldn't support his large frame at the brutal NBA pace, which forced him to retire at the age of 30. He averaged 19 points, 9 rebounds, and 2 blocks per game.
I never knew he retired that early. Also, the injuries, man, these guys get, it's just unbelievable. You feel for them. You feel for them. The injuries, man, the injuries are ridiculous. 30 years old. I'm 30 right now. Retiring. Oh my God, that's scary.
And was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2016. He will be remembered as the biggest and the greatest Asian player of all time, and the only guy who makes Shaq look small. Slavko Resh, 7 feet 6 inches. Slavko Resh is a Montenegrin basketball player who had a long-lasting basketball career that stretched over 20 years. With his height of 7'6", it's easy to conclude why he started a professional career at the age of 17, when he signed for Turkish Efes Pilsen. With the emergence of Yao Ming, who got drafted the year before, the Knicks rolled the dice on him and drafted him with the 39th overall pick in the 2003 NBA draft. They soon realized he's not Yao, and Resh didn't end up playing a single minute for the Knickerbockers, as they waived him at the middle of the season. After he cleared waivers, the Trailblazers had signed him to a 10-day deal. He got the opportunity to play in one game for them, for a total of 3 whole minutes. In case you were wondering, he didn't score, but due to his height, he scored a place on our list. Taco Fall, 7 feet 6 inches. Another member of the 7'6" club joined the NBA this year. Of course,
Yeah, I was thinking, sorry, that's a weird frame. I was thinking it looks very, I think it went viral on Instagram like recently. Yeah, this must be very recent.
we're talking about Taco Fall, who plays for the Boston Celtics. Taco was born in Dakar, Senegal in 1995 and moved to the USA at the age of 16. It was at the time when social media was booming, so if you're a Hoops fan, the chances are that you heard about Taco some 7 to 8 years ago when he was a high school junior, grabbing the rim with his feet planted firmly on the ground. Even though many scouts doubted that he would ever become an NBA player, Taco drew extreme interest from colleges and ended up at the University of Central Florida, where he stayed for a full 4 years. Taco's pretty raw basketball skills improved over time and became one of the best defensive players in college basketball, and won AAC Defensive Player of the Year in 2017, and helped his school win the first game ever in the March Madness tournament. Fall declared for the 2019 draft, where he set up records for height, wingspan, and standing reach at the draft combine. However, he didn't get picked in the draft. Instead, the Boston Celtics signed him to a 10-day contract, which enabled him to play Summer League for them, where
Actually, why is it always 10-day contract? That's very interesting. Why is it always 10? Why is it not like 1 month contract, 6? Why is it 10 days? Is the summer league just for 10 days? Why is it 10 days? Sorry, I don't know. I'm asking.
he did good enough to make the roster for the season on a 2-way contract. Fall made his debut for the Celtics on October 26th during a game against the New York Knicks, and became a fan favorite in Boston, who often chant his name to get him some playing time. Manute Bol, 7 feet 7 inches. Every time I'm in a jam, I always find a loophole. I got a crime record longer than Manute Bol, ramped Big L in his hit record MVP. While Manute Bol wasn't an MVP on the floor, he was often mentioned in rap lyrics and starred on the front covers of magazines. What he lacked in quality, Manute had in quantity. Standing at 7'7", he was the tallest player ever at the time he got to the league, and that's what propelled his status in pop culture. Born in South Sudan, which is on average the tallest country in the world, with the average height being over 6 feet, Manute was the tallest of the tall. And it wasn't just that Manute was tall, it was the way he was built as well that visually prolonged his already extremely long limbs. Manute weighed only 220 pounds, which made him stand out even more, and also diminished his impact on the court. He was often bullied by physically stronger opponents, as most centers and power forwards weighed from 240 pounds upwards. Manute wasn't exactly very skilled either, and he averaged a mere 2.6 points for his career. However, despite a lack of production,
Do you know what? I feel so sorry for some of these guys because they probably don't want to play basketball. But the fact that they're tall, people just, you have to play. And I feel like we all do it. We've all done it. We've all seen someone that's really tall and we're like, do you play basketball? We just automatically assume they have to play basketball. That's sad. Like what they said about Yao Ming earlier. He wasn't interested at first, but then he was forced into it. Manute Bol probably wasn't interested as well. But everyone was like, man, you're tall. Come on, you have to do it. Wow, that's crazy.
on offense, Bol was one of the best shot blockers the league has ever seen. And that's why he was able to stay in the NBA for 10 years, with 624 games played. He averaged 3.3 blocks per game, which is the second highest block average ever, and is the only player who has more blocked shots than points in his career. A great humanitarian off the court, he will always be remembered by NBA fans as the Jolly Big Giant, and a metaphor for extremely long things. George Miran, 7 feet 7 inches. When you're tall enough to peek over bathroom stalls, the chances are that you'll become either an NBA player or make people really uncomfortable from time to time. George Miran did both. Chris Webber told this bathroom prank story when he was a Miran teammate in Washington and described George as one of his funniest teammates. A Romanian center, born in Transylvania, didn't project to be tall. as his mother was 5'7" and his father was just 5'9". But because of a condition with his pituitary gland, young George kept on growing until he finally got to 7'7", which made him the tallest NBA player ever, along with Manute Bol, who was even his teammate for a short stint. Pretty raw and awkward when he first came to the league at the age of 22. Miran didn't get much playing time in the first 2 seasons. However, when he became a permanent starter in his 3rd year, George turned into a solid contributor, averaging 14.5 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 2.3 blocks, while leading the league in field goal percentage. This earned him the award for the most improved player in 1996. He led the league in field goal percentage the following year, until a back injury sidelined him for the whole 97-98 season, and all but 1 minute of the next one. After his recovery and acting debut alongside Billy Crystal and My Giant, Miran finally came back in the 1999-2000 season, but he was only able to play 30 games for the Nets before calling it quits because of the foot, knee, and back issues, which are common for basketball players of that stature. He remained a fan favorite in Washington, where he still lives today with his family.
Fair play to him. Do you know what? It's really good to actually learn about this, because when we see the tall players, we're like, oh, they're so tall, they must be perfect. They're going through so much pain. So much pain. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I love, reacting to stuff like this. So yeah, comment down below. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and I'll react to it. See ya. Bye-bye.